Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. We all got here frazzled and frozen as we all have been. We are now warm and toasty with our brand new heating system that got installed on Wednesday. And with great thanks to Laleen, who wrote a quick grant to the Chalice Lighters, they funded almost $6,000 of heating system. So that's how important it is that we have good membership in the Chalice Lighters. Just letting you know. Well, welcome to the Umpqua Unitarian Universalist congregation, the church that puts its faith in you. It's a place where you can be yourself, but not by yourself. I'm Martha Sinkula. I'm your service leader today, and we're so glad that you are here. I especially welcome those of you who might be visiting for the first time and those watching from home. Please, those of you who are here, please stay for coffee and conversation later so we can get to know each other better. Today we continue our live streaming to bring our services to the greater community, and you can access, those of you at home, access our OSS, our Order of Sunday Service link in our newsletter that follow along. And as I got informed by several members earlier, please turn these off. And one person actually held up her phone and said, "I'm turning it off." So the police won't come get you. Our speaker today, excuse me, I'm going a little too fast here. I need to thank the greeters, Al and Mary Herring, and I saw Gemma was helping out too. And we always thank Jake, our media guy, Sean, our music person, and Jen in the office for putting this service together. And thanks again for everyone who's with us today for caring to keep this very important place vital. Now, our speaker today is Reverend Dennis Reynolds, who, as we announced last week, is now serving our congregation as an interim developmental minister on a quarter-time basis for 1 calendar year, beginning December 1st and going until December 1st of 2023. We are delighted. He'll be here 5 days a week. He is here on Tuesdays.
5 days a month.
Oh, excuse me.
You gotta
I
pay me
tried.
a lot more for 5 days a week.
I tried. It was a Freudian slip, boy, did I wish that was, no, it's okay. I was looking to the second line of my script that says office hours, and I skipped to office hours, sorry. Office hours, tell us again.
1 to 4 on Tuesday afternoons.
So,
Other times can be due by appointment, but it would be good if you contact me beforehand, so I haven't got, 2 or 3 of you showing up at the same time.
he's a very popular guy. So we're very grateful to have him. Having him here 1 day a week is an addition to the dates that he serves us on Sundays, which is out of another budget. That's a Sunday service budget. So that's why we're getting him 2 Sundays this week, because we had money in our Sunday services budget to have him come here too. We're very delighted. As you know, he brings extensive ministerial background, humor, and insight, and he's eager to continue to meet with all of us, current committees. In fact, he's staying today for the board meeting, which we're delighted to have him. And he's here to help our congregation grow and to thrive. And we are very grateful for his guidance, and we are so excited for this opportunity. Please refer to your announcements in the order of service, both front and back. And if you'll please notice, on the calendar, there is a special service this Friday afternoon. This is in place of a Sunday service. We are not going to have a Sunday service on the 25th. So on the 23rd, we're going to have a solstice Christmas/holiday service with carols, cookies, and cheer at 3 o'clock, and we welcome all of you. Dennis will be doing our service. Sean will be providing the music, and we will all be here to sing and enjoy and have candlelight. We'll be lighting candles at the end and then having some fellowship time with actual eating. So put that on your calendar 3 o'clock Friday.
Underline cookies,
Excuse me?
underline
Cookies. I've already hit up a couple of people for cookies. So we have cookies coming, at least we have cookies coming. Thank you. Thank you, June, for agreeing to do that for me. All right. I think I've got that. Now, just one more quick announcement. Our board is currently in great need, another member at large, and we also need a treasurer. And I need to explain the difference in our treasurer's position now as than before. We have now got a paid time, part-time accountant to do all the financials. It's a big job to be a treasurer, a horrible time-consuming job. And in the past, the treasurer did everything, all the financials. I mean, it's really for a person who doesn't have that training, it's not real easy to do. So we've hired a part-time treasurer, or part-time accountant. And that person, the treasurer, would just then report to the board as a voting member of the board and would provide a monthly report given to her or him from the accountant. And that would be the articulation of the financials, and all, and then would also that person would meet with the finance committee once a month. Is that how, you ladies, is that how many times you met? Once a month. Then this person would also be a voting member of the board. So those of you who might have an interest to help us out, please see me or Laleen, and we would be glad to share with you any more information. But we really do need a voting member of the board that is a treasurer position, and we need a new member at large. Excuse me? I don't.
Speak into the microphone.
Can't you hear me? I'm sorry, Betsy. Okay. All right. Enough of the announcements. We will now collect money for fish. The fish food pantry, as you know, provides food and help to those in our community who have great need. Is there anyone from the floor that could help collect baskets? Annan, I know, will be here. Baskets over here. Our support of the fish pantry is combined effort of several Roseburg churches. Thank you, everyone. Now is the time in our service where we'll be doing the chalice lighting. Ready?
The words from our chalice lighting are from the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, who's recently began service as the president of the Unitarian Universalist Ministerial Association.
Here in this place of peace, may we find hope.
Here in this place of connection, may we find life-giving community.
Here in this place of rest, let the unrest of our heart turn towards justice.
Here in this place made sacred by memories of connection, let us feel ourselves part of the new that grows from the old in the spiraling unity of years. invite you now to rise in body and in spirit for our opening hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. It's familiar because we just did it last week, and we're going to be exploring some repetitive gathering hymns to help us all become more familiar with them rather than something new every week. So please join us in song.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Thank you. Please be seated. I have a story to share, and some may be glad to know it's not Leo Leone. I've shared before that congregation I served in Klamath Falls for a period of most of a year. I would do it often, and one of the kids would say, "Is it another Leo Leone, Reverend Dennis?" Well, today it's not. It's an old poem that many of you know. The words are Robert Frost, stopping by woods on a snowy evening. But the illustrations I recommend you come and take a look at later by Susan Jeffers. And I even liked the cover on this one, and I'll show you it before I take it off because it clinks a little bit. I think it looks like fog. I just love that it's this sort of foggy cover to protect my copy of the book. And I'll share the pictures a little bit, but I recommend you might want to take a look later at Susan Jeffers' visual representation of Robert Frost, starting with the title page, which has some lovely foxes in the woods. He dedicated it to Jude, the illustrator did. Whose words these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness a shake and asks if there is some mistake. The only other sound the sweep of easy wind. And downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. But I have promises to keep. And let's try this last line together, right? And miles to go before I sleep. Repeated. And miles to go before I sleep. And that's the end. And it doesn't look like we've got kids to sing downstairs. Do we want to sing it anyway? Let's sing to each other. I can get that out of your way.
Got it, Jake? Go ahead. To me, that's a comforting song. I don't know why. Now is the time in our service when we remember our joys and concerns with silent or spoken candle lighting regarding the significant milestones in our lives, including those at home who may participate. I invite those who wish to light a candle, both or silent or spoken, to please form a line over here to my right. And for those with a spoken candle, please give your name and please be brief. And please use the big candle in the sandbox to light your candle so we don't get wax all over our chalice. That's what's happened before. Thank you.
My name is Al Herring, and I have two joys to share. One is that our newest member signed the book this morning, which is our daughter, Kathy Baker. Kathy? Yeah. And the other joy is that seated behind us at the control panel is Jake Tranter. And Jake has a new movie out called Trial by Fire, and it is premiering locally now, and Mary and I saw it.
I always find it interesting when I look out at you folks when we sing familiar songs like that one. Those folks who don't have to pay any attention to what's there or in the hymnal. And it touches me still. Eugene Church doesn't always sing it every Sunday, but for many years did. It's often considered the anthem of Unitarian Universalists. Carolyn McDade, the songwriter, though, was not a Unitarian Universalist, and periodically she would remind people of that truth. We're pretty good at claiming people we believe should be ours as though they were. You want this?
Yeah. We forgot the offertory.
Oh, we forgot a piece.
Well, I sat down, and I should have.
It's time to give up the dough. That's what we're doing.
How many times does one do this service? How I could do this service in my sleep. Well, not really.
And she often does.
Okay. We know that our financial contributions for this congregation come from the sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this, and we commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow our church that will be thankfully received. For the gifts that we have received, may we be truly grateful, and may we be committed to using these gifts to make a difference in the world and to expand our beloved community. Thank you.
Now, I want to make sure we don't make light of that time. And even in these times when many of us don't give on Sunday morning, we pledge. Sometimes it's an automatic deduction. That's what happens at my house, to my home church. It just happens. And so I want to invite you to just remember that time when the basket is passed. of how you have chosen to give to this beloved congregation, and the reality that we're here today because so many have given so much for so many years. So I apologize for stepping on that very important ritual in our faith tradition. I invite you now to settle into a time of silencing yourself, and this will have some quiet time during this service, as well as some time for soft music that we will be gifted with after this time of meditation. So settle in, make your body comfortable, and whatever that is for you. For me, it's both feet firmly planted, but cross legs, if that works for you, is what works for you. I often find I breathe more clearly if my spine is straighter. And this is not the time to worry about this belly that gets a little bigger, to just let it be relaxed. Many teachers describe the notion of hard back and soft belly as we breathe in and out in community, remembering as I breathe in, I notice I'm breathing in. As I breathe out, I notice I'm breathing out, in and out. And as we breathe together, I want to share some words from the writer Nancy Woods, whose home is in the southwestern United States, that invite us into silence. And then after the words, we'll sit for a time in shared silence before Sean gifts us with song. She wrote, "It is our quiet time. We do not speak, for the voices are within us. It is our quiet time. We do not walk, for the earth is all within us. It is our quiet time. We do not dance because the music has lifted up to a place where the Spirit is. It is our quiet time. We rest with all of nature. We wake when the seven sisters wake. We greet them in the sky over the opening of the kiva, the holy place." Take a large cleansing breath in, noticing you're breathing in, and a large cleansing breath out, noticing that you are breathing out. And Sean has a bit of background first and a song to share.
The song I'm going to share with you today is one that you may have grown up with, the Italian version of it, which is made popular by some very talented singers who I'm not going to try to copy their talent, but I found an English version of this song, which is actually a musical honoring of a tradition from Sweden, where the Sancta Lucia, as they call her, I believe. I'm not very familiar with Swedish pronunciation. In Italy, they call her Santa Lucia. Some other parts of the world they refer to as Saint Lucy or whatever. But the legend has it that in a time, I believe it was in in the Roman Empire, when some of the early Christians were being persecuted, they were hiding in the catacombs and caves, and as has happened in other times of persecution, there were angels of light who, in the form of human beings, that went and served them and took care of them. And this girl, Lucy, would go down into the dark place where they were hiding and bring them sustenance, and so that she could carry more stuff with her. The legend has it that she put a wreath of candles on her head so she could see. And so she would come into this dark place, perhaps in the winter, bringing light and sustenance. And so Saint Lucy, as she's referred to affectionately in Sweden and other parts of the world, is a symbol of the bringer of light. And Saint Lucy's Day is celebrated around the time of the solstice, the darkest day of the year, when we are looking forward with hope to the return of the light. And the song has beautiful imagery that reminds us of that. And actually, Lucy's name, Luz, or Lucia, whatever language, means light. So you can think of Santa Lucia as the holy light, which comes again after times of darkness to nourish us. Night comes with heavy steps through our land calling. Sunlight the earth forgets, shadows are falling. However dark the night, rising with candles bright, Santa Lucia, Santa Lucia. Though long may be the night, hope she is bringing. Hear now the maiden white, silently winging. Hushed wonder in the air, lights glowing in her hair. Santa Lucia, Santa Lucia. The darkness soon shall flee, valleys in shadow, sunlight I can foresee over the meadows. The sun can come again, rise in the sky to rain. Santa Lucia, Santa Lucia. The sun will come again,
Thank you, Sean. Now we move from music into a time of shared words. I have a reading that Martha and I would like you to share with us. And we're going to do it again by that description, antiphonally. And it's an interesting piece. It's a word I discovered from an Episcopalian colleague who, when he retired, attended regularly the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship on Whidbey Island. His faith had moved over the years. And the reading in your hymnal is number 543. And the way we're going to do it, again, that antiphonal process, this side of the room will read the regular type with Martha. Have we got the, or do we want to switch places? Okay, we'll do the regular type with me. I sent her a script version saying she got the italics, so she's going to stick with that. So this side of the room will read the regular type with me. This side of the room will read the italics with Martha as we read, not between some authority figure in the pulpit and the congregation, but the congregation reading to each other. Winter by Greta Crosby has gifted us with this piece. Let us not wish away the winter. It is a season to itself, not simply the way to spring.
When trees rest, growing no leaves, gathering no light, they let the sky and trace themselves delicately against dawns and sunsets.
The clarity and brilliance of the winter sky delight. The loom of fog softens edges, lulls the eyes and ears of the quiet, awakens by risk the unquiet. A low, dark sky can snow, emblem of individuality, liberality, and aggregate power. Snow invites to contemplation and to sport.
Winter
Winter dark tends to warm light, fire and candle. Winter cold to hugs and huddles. Winter want to gifts and sharing. Winter danger to visions, plans, and common endeavoring. And the zest of narrow escapes. Winter tedium to merrymaking.
Let us therefore praise winter, rich in beauty, challenge, and pregnant negativities.
There's two particular pieces in that reading I like, and I invite you to explore them yourself. That piece about pregnant negativities. You know what? Part of what I hope you leave with today is a little more comfort with ambiguity, because you don't need to know exactly what that means, because it is what that means for you. And the other word that struck me when we read it together, and it struck me in a different way when I heard it, not merely spoke it or read it, was endeavoring. What a great verb that is, endeavoring. So let us explore that process of endeavoring. But I want to begin with some reflection. On the morning I sat down to write this homily, the small valley on the edge of Eugene where I'm blessed to live was draped in a dense fog. When I first got up that chilly morning, it was still semi-dark, and looking out the window, I could barely see beyond the fence in my yard. Then the sun, which I couldn't actually see, but which nonetheless was shining light through the clouds, began to illumine the fields and the trees all around. The fog, though, made it difficult to clearly see anything that was not very close. As the Morning Reads describes it, the fog softened the edges. Over breakfast, our morning ritual of watching the birds at their feeders just outside our window took on an extra dimension, as the birds would suddenly appear out of the fog just before they landed. It seemed, though, that they at least could find their ways to the feeders for their breakfast. Over breakfast, at our breakfast, after breakfast, as we do each Wednesday, my wife Suzanne and I went upstairs to join our online meditation group from the Eugene UU Church that has been part of our weekly rituals for several years now. Since our meditation space is upstairs, I had a new and different perspective on our small valley. From the upstairs windows, it looked like a Japanese wood print. Each hillside and row of trees looked just a bit softer and blurrier than the one in front of it. During part of our sit, rather than closing my eyes, I kept them softly opened, unfocused and yet attentive. The morning seemed quieter than most. Even the soft hum of our heat pump contributed to the morning softness. Out the window, the leafless trees traced themselves against the soft dawn. Though the view was foggy that morning, I had some almost surprising times of clarity. Life that morning, and I was reminded almost every morning, is grand and marvelous. That was very clear to me. The warmth within the room and within me seemed more comforting than usual. Perhaps it came from my knowing it was so darn cold outside. I was able to quiet somewhat my busy left brain, homes to plans and agendas and rationality, and be more present to my right brain, home to contemplation, creativity, and that ineffable essence some call spirit. I was able to quiet myself in a profound way. Finding methods and practices that can help us quiet our busy, rational minds and using our whole brain are the core of spiritual practices, be it meditation or yoga or shared worship. When we can get a bit quieter and take a Sabbath break from our busy lives and busy thoughts, we can then be more open to the experiences and perspectives that come from our brain's more intuitive side. By the way, the notions of right brain and left brain are differences are not mine. I borrow largely from the work of the neuroanatomist Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, whose notions about this reality she articulated in her book, Stroke of Insight. She's also got some wonderful short YouTube and TED Talks about her experiences and I guess we would say the enlightenment that came to her from her own experiences. Today, I want to focus on how the winter season, its darkness, its cold, and perhaps most significantly, the soft grays, can offer a break from crystal clarity and gift us with its own special views and viewpoints. Winter invites ambiguity and an acceptable level of doubt. What did I see there in the fog? It's not always immediately clear, and that's okay. Winter helps me to accept Buddhist notions of acceptance of what simply is. Winter helps me nurture Christian notions of the renewal and redemption that can be born in dark times. Winter invites me to embrace the teachings of indigenous and pagan wisdoms that tell us that life spins in a circular pattern and that the light always returns. Winter invites me to celebrate the amazing, complex unfolding of the slow transformations that regularly and reliably occur in nature. Winter also invites me to celebrate small glimmers of light that persist even in the darkest times, like a chalice light or a candle lit to honor an aspect of life. Winter reminds me that life is usually grand and marvelous, then even when it's not, renewal and rebirth will occur. Winter is a time filled with creative possibilities. Winter is pregnant with possibilities that when the gestation of ideas is complete, will give birth to new life, new notions, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. The ancients recognized long ago the significance of what goes on in winter. They recognized, too, what a profound time it can be for creativity. Storytelling around the fire became an art form, an oral literature. Carving, beading, and pottery were pursuits engaged in winter, away from the seasons of food gathering and growing. In more recent times, such cooler, wet times were often filled with sewing and needle crafts, basketry, and simple metal shaping. Winter has long been the time for sharpening tools. So too, winter can be a time for us to sharpen our minds, clean out old ideas, and freshen our outlook. I find extra time in winter, it seems, for reading, both fiction and nonfiction, and it's good for my entire brain to contemplate deeply and sometimes slowly over what I have read. When it's stormy and freezing in the out of doors, the warmth and relative quiet inside invites me towards deeper contemplation. Some of us, though, love to be outside in winter pursuits. Skiing and, for the motor crowd, snowmobiling are major activities for many. Just get out there is what some people seek to do. I have to admit, I love to be outside in winter in the rain with a really good raincoat. And that's the time when I give thanks to God for Gore-Tex. There is, well, I think, Gore had something to do with it. But, there's an old Alaska adage that says there's no such thing as bad weather, just improper clothing. And I find that bundling up in inclement weather can be a part of a very special, sweet cocooning. Several years ago, I went on a kayak and meditation trip in Southeast Alaska, where I learned the truth of that adage about proper clothing. One of the most memorable times that week was the morning when, after breakfast and coffee under a tarp with the rain pouring down the edges, and when you have to periodically push up on the tarp so it won't collapse, it was that kind of morning. And then we each stepped out into the rain, found a place under a tree, and sat and sat and sat in the falling rain for an extended time of meditation. There was something about sitting there all warm and cozy, wrapped in wool and polypropylene, not one bit of cotton, mind you, just being in the rain, thanks to Gore-Tex. was a profoundly deepening experience and comforting to my body and my spirit. Now, I can get a taste of such an experience just watching the rain from my porch, or sometimes just looking out the window at a deluge, and when I'm not being too careful, watching the rain and the windshield wipers go swish, swish. There's something special, and it's a little easier in the cold and cool season for me to find time for my meditative practices. Winter helps me to slow down. I have a friend from my Whidbey Island days named Tom Ewell. Tom is a deeply committed Quaker and learns much from silent times. He posts a regular blog he calls Saturday Night Post that I enjoy very much. He recently wrote, "I have often encouraged the importance of creating opportunities for quiet renewal in these all too distracting, busy, and stressful times of our lives. I would like to encourage all to be intentional about removing ourselves from our daily routines with sufficient space and time to let our souls speak to us. Nature sends such a clear message that just as it needs time to rest and renew, so do we. Nature sends, I suspect many of you already observe some form of prayer, meditation, and other ways to withdraw from your routine and various duties of your life. But if you are not doing so, this quiet period of the year is the perfect time to explore how spiritual reflection might be integrated into your regular daily practice. I want to close," he wrote, "with a recent experience that represents well how we might find time for solitude and reflection. Because I'm having some hip problems," Tom tells us, "my walks are now limited. So last week I set out for a short walk on a familiar path in the woods on a drizzly day. Suddenly, I realized how profoundly alone I was, yet mystically present to the surrounding still trees, mosses, ferns, and the chatter of a distant squirrel or bird. I was simply immersed and frozen in the moment with a profound gratitude for simply being alive. And I felt the affirmation that my soul seeks this kind of sacred moment in my life as much as I need food and warmth to survive. Just as I've experienced, as shared with my Advent adventures and invoking, I encourage you to share your own stories of quiet reflection, and then to inquire to each other about how and when others experience a reflective, pregnant time of anticipation for the surprises and miracles that await us on our life journey. Surprises and miracles. So today, we're going to take some time, as Tom suggests, to share a bit of quiet reflection and some stories that might emerge from them. Time to explore ways to withdraw from our routines and various duties of life. So we've been exploring a number of questions here. A couple of months ago, I shared a sermon which was based around the question of why church? And last week, those of you who were present with us reflected on what? Those questions of, what do you come here for? What do you gain here? And what can you give here? Today, we're going to share a little bit about how. How do you find best ways to withdraw from your routines, to find contemplative times where you can ponder deeply? As the neuroscientists might describe it, how do you quiet your busy analytical left brain, over there, to allow your right brain to be heard? You know, for some, it may be an intentional meditative practice. For others, it's exercise, it's movement, perhaps yoga, which has always had a spiritual dimension. Maybe it's a hard workout in another form. For many years, running was a profound practice for me. I have to admit, in more recent times, it's become walking. Because I find when I am paying attention just to putting one foot in front of the other, and as they say, repeat as necessary, I find it quiets me, and my left brain relaxes. Just being out in nature, birding, or just looking can be a strategy. Many find opportunities to go deeper via the arts, be it woodworking or painting, drawing, collages, or fabric arts, needlework. I took a class in seminary that was titled Music as a Gateway. And indeed it is. Music, be it performance or appreciative listening, can be a way to go deeper within. Accessing literature can be a deepening practice. And writing, articulating our thoughts and feelings through journaling or letter writing, or for the organized, blogging, can be a form of practice. So I want you to think about this morning, and we're going to share a little bit of it. How do you go deeper? What practices, what habits, what experiences help you go to a deeper place and get in touch with the parts of life and of the brain that many of us call the spiritual? So we're going to ponder that question. We'll also ask you to share a bit with that question. We're not going to break out into small groups today, but there will be some time for dialogue. You'll notice that there are pencils and note cards under about every other chair. Okay? And we're going to get one for each of you. If you have one under your chair, please pass a pencil and a card to your neighbor sitting next to you. And then what I'm going to ask you to do in a minute is to pair off with another person sitting near you, preferably not someone you came with. Okay? You have plenty of time to share these kinds of reflections with the people you hang out with more. Okay? So let's just take a moment, turn your chair so you can face another to have a brief exchange. Some people, it's going to mean somebody in the row in front of you or row behind. We've got some more mobile people like Sean, who's getting up and moving around a little bit. So just face off with another person. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some turns for you to share with that other person what we came up with. Are we about there? Okay, now that you're paired off, have we got solo people? Martha, are you still looking? Why don't you peer off of the...
I'm picking a lady in this row.
Okay. All right, it looks like we've got a pair. Now what we're going to do with that person who you're partnered with. Okay, now I have a former colleague, my mentor, Minister Carolyn Colbert, who used to talk about the need to sometimes gong you into silence. So I invite you now to take a deep breath in and out as we settle into silence. Martha, you're going to have to grab Jake back there if you're still needing a partner. Okay. You know, they say whenever two or more gather, and that's what we're really looking at today, to take some time to share. And what we're going to do together first for a couple of minutes is a couple of minutes of shared silence, just breathing together. Now, I want to invite whichever one of you chooses to share first to take a couple minutes to just share what are those processes for you that help you go deeper. And remember, clarity is not required. Ambiguity can be one of our sweetest friends. So just take a couple of minutes to articulate a little bit of what's moving for you. There'll be some time after to write things down. So just share. You know, as they say, discuss, talk amongst yourself. Please wrap up and switch speakers if you haven't already. And I do have a plan for those of you who ended up in triads. So we'll jot down notes after, because then when you're listening, you can actually be listening. So I invite another person to share. Some time to wrap up, please. And then for those of you who ended up in triads, this would be the time for a third speaker to speak. For those of you who were in a pair, this is a time for you to jot down some notes. The triad people can work on notes later. There will be time. There is all the time in the world available to us in its time. So in triads, if the third person hasn't spoken, taken that time now, and take some time to jot down some notes. There will be time at the end of the service to jot down more notes as you wish. What we hope you'll do is, even if it's after you have a cup of coffee, just leave your cards in the notes for us to take a look at later. This is part, again, the ongoing process of me knowing more about what church, why church, how you do your practices of deepening. So that I can best partner with you in my time of service as your minister. And I invite you now to rise in body and spirit for song. It's hymn number 55, Dark of Winter. Please rise in body or in spirit. And remain standing for our closing words of benediction. This little bit extra long service will, in its time, end.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profoundly, and then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me, and then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal.
Our closing words of benediction.
May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity.
May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
Salam,
Shalom.
amen, and blessed be.
And as we extinguish the flame, I want to do is my want to repeat a phrase and invite you to repeat it back to me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. The fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. For these we hold in our hearts until we are together again. Amen. Let us join in the closing song that is the tradition of this congregation. Go in peace, go in love. And just bring